What's up, my friends? Welcome back to another Action After episode. And on this week, we are looking at Blake Wynn's Action After item, which was to reach out. All right, very simple. This week, we're keeping it simple. We're keeping it easy so that you make sure you go out and you execute on this one thing. Now, the one Action After item for this week is for you to reach out to someone that makes you feel good. All right, now, the whole ideology behind this is that different perspectives change our life, right? If we look, there's a saying, it says, if we look at the world differently, the world that we look at changes. Something along those lines, right? If we change the way we look at the world we look at changes. And so what you want to start to understand is sometimes in having conversations with someone, you can begin to change the way that you think. Now, part of reaching out in this Action After item is that you're going to reach out to someone that is not someone you really connect with that often. All right, so this isn't a best friend. This isn't, let's say you talk to your mom and dad every week. This isn't them. This is someone that when you talk to them, you feel good, but maybe you haven't spoken to them in a little bit. This could be maybe someone that you went to school with, and you always, when you talk to them, just kind of like had cool conversations, intriguing ideas that you spoke about. Or maybe it's someone that you used to play sports with. And when you played sports with them, again, there was always kind of this interesting energy they brought. Maybe, like Blake said, maybe you have an aunt or an uncle that you don't really talk to, but when you see them at, holidays or things like that, you kind of just light up around them. Or maybe they make you laugh. They make you feel good. Like, who's someone like that you can think of, right? Again, a few ideas I'll give you is this could be someone you played sports with. This could be someone you went to school with. This could be a relative. It could be an aunt, an uncle, maybe a cousin that you've always clicked with growing up. This could be maybe even like a professor that when you went to school, this professor, anytime you got in their classroom, they just made you think a little differently, right? Who is someone that you can reach out to, whether it's text, whether it's email, whether it is a phone call, if that would work, but somebody you can simply just reach out to and simply just have a conversation with. Now, a few different ways you can take this conversation is one of the ways, like Blake said, is you could literally, if you have an iPhone, I don't know if you can do this in Android, but you can send them like a game. Like on an iPhone, you can send somebody a game, you can play a game, and as you're playing a game, you kind of have conversations. So maybe just a fun, silly kind of way to reconnect that doesn't require much of anything is just send them a game to play. And as you play this game, you'll probably notice you have conversations. Maybe that's one way. Now, another conversation you could have with them if you're like, I'm not going to go play a game with my uncle on my phone because he doesn't know how to work his phone or whatever it would be. Maybe another thing you do is maybe you text them or you call them and you ask them like, what are some of my strengths and what are some of my weaknesses? Right. And obviously you got to come into this conversation if that's the direction you go with a little bit more vulnerability. But for me personally, one of the most impactful conversations I had in my life that really helped me kind of get back on my feet when I was feeling lost is I had a conversation with my dad and I asked him, what are my strengths and what are my weaknesses? And as we went into this conversation, he gave me some feedback that really helped me kind of point my feet in the next direction that I wanted to go in my life, and it turned into a beautiful blessing. But it was because I was willing to have that conversation. So maybe that's something you ask somebody, hey, what are some of my strengths that you've always noticed when you see me do this? It's just kind of natural and I just flow and it's almost like I'm in a flow state, right? Versus what are some other things you see me do that when I do them, I struggle a little bit. I don't really click as well with them. Or maybe that's another conversation you have. Strengths, weaknesses, what do I flow in, what don't I flow in? Maybe another conversation you could have with them are, what are things that when they tell people about you, these are things that they mention, right? They go, oh, this is my cousin, this is one of my friends, he blank, 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 right? And that's kind of what people say about you, right? So these are just a couple different ideas on conversations you can have, but the point is very simple here. Is in the next 24 to 48 hours, send a text, an email, a phone call, a FaceTime, if that works for you as well. In some way, shape, or form, reach out to somebody that makes you feel good, someone that you haven't talked to relatively recently, and simply have a conversation with that person. Maybe just let the conversation flow organically, see what they're up to in life, and maybe you get some ideas from that on where you can go next in your life. Because again, as you get that shift in perspective, it's going to allow you to look at the next step of your life a little bit differently. Okay, so that is going to be the action after this week. We're keeping it very simple. All you got to do next 24 to 48 hours, send a text, email, phone call, do something to reach out to somebody and start to shift your perspective. All right, that's it. Go take action, and we will see you next week.